Hey, we're Blenderstyle, and we want to show you that we're good for something. On this episode, we're discussing the Springfield, Massachusetts band Stained and their second album, Dysfunction, released on Flip Records in 1999. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Flip Records. Is that from...
So this album was co-produced by Fred Durst from The Biscuit, the limp one.
I have heard of that band.
Also Terry Date, who did...
he was the producer on this.
He was the producer, the main producer. He did Pantera, I think every Pantera album.
He definitely did Vulgar Display of Power
and
tons and tons
he
of
did Soundgarden.
great albums.
I don't know which album.
Deftones.
And I read that when Fred Durst is responsible for getting this band signed, but when he first saw their initial album, the cover depiction of like a Barbie doll getting crucified and some other stuff made him think that these guys were Satanists, and it was too gruesome, and he tried to get them kicked off the tour, and didn't want anything to do with them. And then after hearing them live, pushed really hard to get them signed. I don't know how true that is.
That's why Stain never toured with Deicide.
There you go. So
makes sense now.
So I figured this is kind of one of those albums that I was really kind of big into back in the early 2000s.
Really? Did you get into it when it came out, or when?
I want to say I got into it around 99, maybe the beginning of 2000. But it's been so long I don't remember. I remember we drove up to Flagstaff, Arizona to watch our buddy Will's band at the time. Him and his brother had that band, Clone 117. And this was probably around 97.
They played with Sacred Reich. I'm wearing a Sacred Reich shirt.
I did not know that.
And Obituary.
And watched his band, their first show ever. And then came back, and a couple years later, this band came out, and it was on the radio. And I had kind of lost contact with Will in the meantime. And I thought this was Clone 117 when I first heard it.
Did they sound like this?
They were very similar in sound.
I don't think I ever heard them.
And so it kind of instantly clicked that, like, oh, this is really cool, you know. And then when I found out who it was,
that's trippy that you say that, because the first time I heard Stain, that I recall actually listening to a Stain album or song, I was in a car with Will.
Yeah. And
we were driving the band practice because we were in a band with your brother. Okay. And so this was like 2000, I think. It's been a while. It came on the radio.
Okay.
And I like looked over, and he was like lip syncing all the lyrics. He like knew the song completely. And I was just like, I saw what he saw in Stain, like the more depressed kind of stuff. And I got an appreciation for it, but I never went back and really listened to it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really got into anything after this album. I think this album was because it was so similar to Clone 117 at the time. And it just kind of like clicked with me, and so it kind of interested me. What about you, Nate?
So the first time I heard them was Breaking the Cycle.
That's the one after this one, right?
Yeah. And and I enjoyed that album. I enjoyed it actually when I first heard it, even though friends were like, "Oh, sad boy." Like I liked it.
It's pretty fucking emo, dude.
It definitely is, and like listening to it now, like I'm like a little like, oh, you know.
You're like, I mow my own yard.
But you know what? You gotta give them credit, because this was emo, but it was heavy emo. It wasn't.
It was that emo element of nu metal.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Deftones. I'm not a Deftones fan, but it reminds me of like that kind of like whiny fucking lyrics, woe is me, self-loathing kind of lyrics.
What I've always enjoyed about them, honestly, was like actually some of the musicianship. Like especially even with this album, I wasn't very familiar with it actually. I knew tracks off of it, but this is the first time I've like listened to it. Okay. You know what I mean? And I definitely think there's some really good like guitar picking and guitar work that's going on. I have always loved the sound of Stain's drummer's drums, the snare, the way
it sounds great.
Know, and I love that I've like gone back and like heard this and heard how even those drums aren't recorded the way they should be, but they sound still the same as they do today.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a sound that he likes, and it rings perfectly with my ears. I love his snare sound. And I just think, like, yeah, some of the musicianship and the songwriting is actually pretty good in this. His vocals at some points can get a little tiresome, you know, but
You
I
don't like
actually
his
really
vocals in some parts?
Oh, I do, but I think sometimes it gets a little kind of one trick kind of thing.
That's
you know?
weird because I kind of feel the opposite as you. Like, I feel like the vocals are the standout and the music's just, it's good, but I agree with the drum sound.
I think the vocals are honestly really good, but I feel like a lot of people are that way. They're more in favor of Aaron Lewis. So I just want to throw out there that the musicianship in this is actually really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it honestly really is. You know,
there's
because
some
he's
great-
kind of the front man, especially around this time. Like, bands had frontmen, you know what I mean?
So this is nothing like Counting Crows, August, and everything after. The band's actually doing something.
So kind of to touch on the musicianship, like you said, there's some really cool guitar tones in this. And some really like weird distortions and layerings.
Yeah,
they do.
Just Go. The guitar sound on Just Go is
Yeah,
great.
it's almost like a mix between a wah and a fuzz pedal kind of thing.
That one was infectious for me. That's my favorite track on this album.
Really. So I would have to say probably Crawl or Home.
Crawl was okay.
I just really like that guitar.
Do you have a favorite song on
screech
this
that comes
one,
in at the
Nathan?
beginning.
Honestly, I have to admit that, like, I don't think there's anything bad on this. I enjoy this whole album. I really do. I think it's a, you know, I guess I'm also admitting that I'm actually a Stained fan. I think they kind of come out with decent music, and even, you know,
These lyrics
Yeah,
kind
later-
of seem contrary.
sometimes honestly the lyrics don't even make sense. Like the one where he's like talking about his mom and his dad and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Well, so
I don't
he said in
know.
the interviews numerous times that like this was a healing process for him because of like a bad childhood or whatever. I don't know if that like
I get
went
the
on or
sense on
whatever.
it.
And you kind of do pick up on that, but also
Yeah, but now he does country music where he's like, I
Yeah.
love my home and my family. It would have for
Well,
me.
he's rich now
yeah,
or
well
whatever.
now he's healed.
I don't mean to poke fun at him, but it is kind of weird that it's like
it's a weird
very-
transition.
He's kind of a douchey character in real life. Like, I've seen him like play acoustic on live or play acoustic live and then like yell at the crowd for talking or
oh
whatever.
really?
yeah.
I'm like,
well,
come on, bro.
Also, like,
But
with
I don't
some of
care-
those dates, though, like, I'm gonna sound like I'm really like sticking up for this guy, but that is pretty douchey. But also, some of these dates that he's playing are actually smaller venues,
Mhm.
and like he picks to play these smaller venues.
Like
you
to
know
get
what I
that
mean?
intimate feel.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, if you go to a concert and the guy literally is up there with just an acoustic guitar, you think you'd keep your mouth shut, or
I can see
yeah,
that.
I mean, you're not seeing Stained, you're seeing Aaron Lewis, which
But-
I wouldn't go see, but you're seeing Aaron
Yeah.
Lewis, and
Yeah,
so I kind
alright.
of get it.
All right, good point.
I would go watch Stain, but I wouldn't ever go watch Aaron Lewis just because.
I mean, if he played here at Buck Owens, I'd probably go.
I sure.
I need a
Oh, the
steak and
Crystal
baked
Palace.
potato. Yeah, steak and a baked
While
potato.
watching him play.
Yeah.
He's like,
So-
shut the fuck up.
Take a
These are
picture in front of the Bakersfield sign. Way too drunk.
so kind of to touch what you said, Nate. You never really got into this, and then you listened to it, you enjoyed it a lot more than you thought you would. So Stained was kind of one of those guilty pleasures. You know, after I heard it, you know, a lot of my friends didn't listen to it, or at least I didn't know that they listened to it.
Yeah,
And
my
so it was-
friends were not.
And it
into
was always one of those closet bands that I would listen to when I wasn't around people or whatever. And then
That's why you never shared this with me.
And then
I'd like
when
listen to Everclear after this album ended.
and then I want to say around like 2000, maybe 2003 or no, maybe 2001. I was at my mom's house hanging out and I walked in and my brother was listening to this cranked up, and I was like, "What are you listening to?" He's like, "Stained," and I was like, "You like this?" He's like, "Dude, it's so good." And I was like, "Finally, somebody with a kindred spirit I can share this with." And we sat there and listened to the
Hell
whole
yeah.
album. Listen to the whole album. He's like, "I didn't even know you liked Stained." I was like, "I didn't know you liked Stained."
You're like, let's never tell anyone else.
It's like keep it a secret. Don't tell mom.
The band name is horrible, though.
Do you want to listen to Limp Bizkit after this?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the band name is bad. Stained. Did.
What's cool about this album, though, is it's kind of like a hidden gem, because there was albums that came out around this time that get a lot more like praised and a lot more talked about. You know what I mean? And I think this is kind of like a looked over album. You know?
Yeah. So to kind of touch on that, this album came out and it was like like you said, there was a lot of stuff getting a lot more publicity at the time. This took 6 months to reach #1 on the Heat Seekers chart. I mean, it was a slow climb, and it's a really good album in that sense that it's amazing that it didn't get pushed harder at the time. And I don't know if that's just a matter of like Flip being a smaller label at the time, because I think this was pre Interscope acquisition. And so they didn't have that budget to push these things. Or if it's because, you know, at the time, early 2000s, Britney Spears and all that stuff was kind of dominating the radio and MTV and all that stuff.
Yeah, this is TRL days, you know.
And I can't think of ever seeing like a music video for any of these songs.
Not for this album.
No.
Yeah,
the one after for sure.
Which is kind of weird because I think they did make a couple videos, but I don't recall ever seeing one.
Yeah.
No. Mudshovel,
maybe.
Great bass line.
Dude, this whole album
super memorable.
I mean, with that said, what would you rate this, Nate?
This is honestly an album that's kind of like a hidden gem to me. I love it. I give it a 4.0, man.
Okay. Nice.
I really enjoy it.
Wow.
I love the drums, some of the like chord progressions and the picking on the guitar. I think it's a solid album. I really enjoy it, actually.
I give it a 3.6 out of 5.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty fucking good, dude. There's some really good emotional parts that resonate with me, and then there's some parts I think are totally just whiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like the situation I'd want to listen to this is like, I want to like revel in my own grief, but I never want to do that. I'd rather like get up and do something and be more productive with my life. This sounds a little too self-loathing, but I get it, especially in '99. You know, when I was in high school, and
it's very nostalgic. You know,
it's nostalgic, and it kind of still works. So it's a 3.6 for me, guys. Casey, your pick, Stained, Dysfunction.
So I also gave this a 3.6. I think it's a solid album. It's a great feely album. Like when you're down and out, you could listen to this, and it's kind of cool because you could be like, oh, somebody has it worse than me. But at the same time, I'm with Nathan and I'm with you. So I feel like the guitar work and the drum work and like the musicianship on it is really good. And the lyrical themes are kind of like stretching sometimes. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it does get a little whiny at times.
It definitely does.
But it's not in a bad sense. I think when this came out, you know, emo wasn't really a big thing yet. And so this was kind of the forefront. Had emo stuck to like heavy music,
I mean, Korn was pretty emotional.
It was, but it was heavy.
Deftones was emotional.
But they were heavier. I'm saying like as where emo evolved to later on.
This was a good gap between grunge and new metal.
Yeah, exactly.
With a dash of like dashboard confessional.
This is like the post grunge, right?
Yeah. So so I thought it was a great album. 3.6. Had I rated this just off of my memory on it, probably would have rated it like a 4.2. Then going back and kind of critiquing it, it dropped a little bit, but still one of my all-time favorites. So yeah,
I'm glad we all enjoyed it.
Yeah, honestly,
because now we can like be at parties together and be like, put on Mudshovel.
Yeah. Hey.
Great bass line.
We're Blenderstyle. That was Stained, Dysfunction. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and see you next week.
I think we're a little dysfunctional.